Shot's up now. And you all are going to roll on this, right? So you can take breaks in a minute. I can roll on the camera too, just to have a second. Okay. All right, thanks.
Closer? I got it? Okay. Okay, first of all, I want to say hi to everyone. Thank you for being here this afternoon. And with me, I have Chief Gus Paducas, who's Chief of our School Security, and also Ms. Ebony Satterfield, who represents District 1, and also in the back, Daniel Watson, who represents District 3, and we thank our board members for being here this afternoon. And let me just first of all say that I and we continue to be deeply saddened by the events that happened at Austin East yesterday. More than that, deeply saddened over all the events that have happened in the community where our students attend school. My heart goes out to our school staff, our employees, for no one should have to go to school and have their day interrupted by what happened yesterday. So my heart goes out to all of our employees, and our thoughts and prayers continue to be with the family of the student who is deceased. Also, we want to wish Officer Wilson speedy recovery. He continues to recover in the hospital, and to thank him. He was wounded in the line of duty, so we appreciate and thank him for his service. And let me just say, you probably have questions that we can't answer just because these are an ongoing active investigation. So bear with us. If there's a question that we can't answer, we'll just respond that we're unable to answer that question due to the investigation that is going on. So we will try to take your questions. If you would speak loudly. I know people are masked, so to help me understand, speak loudly, and I will try to address questions that you wish for me to answer, and also Chief Paducas will be available to respond to questions as well. So at this time, we'll just open the floor to questions. Yes, sir.
Superintendent Thomas, we're coming up on 3:15, 24 hours after this happened. What has the last day been like for you and for school staff?
Well, we've had, obviously, we've had counselors available at the school today, and we'll continue to have counselors there at the school for as long as we need to. I'll just have to say, for me, and I know our staff, it's just a feeling of helplessness. I mean, we've got to figure out what we can do to try to help to end this violence. I know it's more than a school effort. It's got to be a community effort. But we've got to, and I can't say enough about our partners, the law enforcement who help us, and our school security officers who help protect our students and our staff every day and put their lives on the line, for our students and staff. But for me, it's just been a feeling of helplessness. Is the best way I can describe it. And And, you know, obviously, didn't get a lot of sleep last night, you know, worrying about this and thinking about this. And you know, was there anything that we could have done differently? Just again, it's a difficult job trying to protect everyone, and you can't always think of every threat, but what can we do in the future, you know, to try to make sure that nothing like this happens again? So again, just deeply saddened and just in prayer a lot, just for strength and guidance, and as we lead our school district. So I don't know if that adequately describes it. It's probably difficult for me to put into words really how I feel. It's remorseful, saddened, just heartbroken. We've had students, 5 students now, that have lost their lives. You know, it's unbearable, and I can't imagine, you know, for the families and for the community what they're going through right now with all the tragedy, and we've just got to figure this out, whatever it takes. I know I'm committed, and I know our board is committed to whatever we need to do to try to make sure that we put an end to this. So don't know if I really have any other words to describe it other than those, but thank you.
Will there be any additional safety measures at the school?
We're continuing to talk to law enforcement. We did make some changes after the shooting a few weeks ago. There were some lighting issues around the back of the school that we corrected. Also, there was a request from Principal Langlois to upgrade the security cameras, which we did. We also added some additional security cameras, and Principal Langlois also implemented clear backpacks. So that was a strategy. As far as our law enforcement partners, KPD, I know picked up their presence in the community and around the school, and they continue to do that. And certainly appreciative to Mayor Kincannon and also Chief Thomas for the resources to help us there. And I know Chief Pedusas can probably talk a little bit more about this, but we've had additional security, our school security officers. School security officers are employees of the school system, and Chief Pedusas has put in a great program and it provides training, you know, to our officers, but their school staff, school employees. The school resource officers are officers that KPD provides to us to work in our schools. So the distinction between school resource officer and school security officer, just make sure that everyone understands that. And we continue to talk, and we'll be talking more with law enforcement too, as to things that we can do and they can do to try to help ensure the safety of our students and staff.
Do you know if there's any talks of any metal detectors or anything?
We have talked a little bit about metal detectors too, and I might let Chief Pedusas come back to that question in terms of the metal detectors when Chief gets an opportunity to talk. So I don't know, would you like for him to address that now? And Chief, do you mind?
Yes, ma'am. Now, we have certainly talked about metal detectors, and it's an option. And of course, we have the walkthroughs model, and then we have some handhelds. And so it is an option. There are some challenges associated with that, and one of our chief concerns is that literally if you have a child every morning go through a metal detector, and then if the metal detector alerts on anything, that child empties their pockets, that child empties their backpack, and while there is some value in a metal detector, it does change the entire complexion of that school day, how that school day starts, how you manage your visitors, who comes and goes, and once a student leaves the building, when they re-enter, then they go back through the same process. And so we're talking about a lot of different options, but metal detectors are a possibility, but there's a lot of challenges. And again, the biggest one is it really changed the complexion of the day for the children.
Sir, can you give us any insight on, we know Officer Wilson was the SRO at the school for the KPD. Were there other SROs, were there other school security officers on premises when it happened yesterday?
Yes, sir. We had 2 SSOs, school security officers, on the scene.
In addition to the SRO?
Yes, sir.
Do you know if any of those, are those SSOs armed? Do they have weapons?
Yes, sir.
Did you know if any of them fired their weapons?
To my knowledge, they did not.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how, you talked about upgrading the cameras around the school, or Superintendent Thomas did. Were those upgrades all completed, or is there more you're waiting to do that you were kind of had in progress at this time?
Well, currently, the camera project at Austin East is complete, but every year we identify additional needs, and so it's not uncommon to have 50 cameras or 75 cameras in a particular school, and then decide you need 2 or 3 more here or 2 or 3 more there. And so I will tell you right now, there's nothing on the drawing board in terms of cameras at Austin East, only because we just upgraded and we just added some additional cameras. And so that could certainly change, because you're not always able to get every single little nook and cranny in a school. But we're always looking at where the gaps are, and then we have the capacity to certainly add additional cameras as needed.
Chief, what can you say to parents about the safety of the school? Why should they send their kids back to the school after one of their fellow students has recently died in the school?
Yes, ma'am. Well, as a parent and a grandparent, I would have the same concerns. I think we're all afraid. It's a very scary time. We have said time and time again that schools are safe. Now, it's kind of odd that we're talking about how safe schools are today after we had a tragedy yesterday, but every day that a child goes to school, there's a lot of safeguards in place. Security is about layers. Our core mission is about developing those healthy relationships with young people, and in child protection, there is never a finish line, and so we'll continue to work every day in this city and in our county. Hundreds of people get up, and their sole purpose is to be sure kids get to and from school safely, and that mission will continually be reinforced. And so I have my concerns having grandchildren, and I think we're all afraid, but schools are safe. There's a lot of people working to make them safe. Yesterday was a terrible tragedy on a lot of different levels, and we'll continue to pray that tragedy doesn't reoccur, but we are constantly looking at ways to make the schools safer, and this will be no exception.
How could a student enter the school building with a gun in the first place?
I do not know. I don't know the particular details on how that occurred.
Do you know, you spoke about things that you know are continuously improving and trying to make. Is there anything that stands out already that you're thinking, okay, this is something we need to implement at Austin East or other schools?
Well, as I just said, our core function as school security officers is to develop those healthy, appropriate relationships with young people, and to be a role model and be part of the school community and the fabric of that school. And I think we just need to continue to do that, and to be sure that every safeguard is in place. We have reached out to the police department just today, and we're going to have a brainstorming session soon to where we can try to determine, is there something that we have missed? Is there something that's out there that we need that we don't have? And just really work together to try to make the schools as safe as we can make them.
Are you looking specifically with that brainstorming session at Austin East and how that community could benefit from it?
Yes, sir. I certainly think we start there, and but there'll be issues discussed that we could perhaps implement at Austin East that will certainly be applicable at schools across the district.
Could you explain the difference between an SRO and an SSO?
Yes, ma'am. SROs, by definition, is a school resource officer. They are full-time sworn law enforcement officers. They are law enforcement officers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and their hiring and their training requirements are set by post, Peace Officer Standards and Training. School security officers, SSOs, we are special deputies that are bonded by the sheriff's office. And so our powers allow us to carry weapons, make arrests, but they are limited to while we are to and from our job in either on a school campus or working a school related function. And so while we are working, we have the same authority that law enforcement has, but it does not extend when we're off the clock, if you will. And so we are SSOs, and by definition, we are bonded deputies that don't have the 24/7 access, nor does post the Peace Officers and Standards and Training Commission do they set our requirements.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Was the student involved in the incident yesterday? Was he a transfer student to Austin East?
A transfer student?
Yes. Or was he a regular student?
The student is enrolled, but I can't really talk too much about the student information, but
And I assume that means you can't release the identity of the student at this time? The name of the student? Are you releasing that now?
oh, okay, I am sorry, I cannot understand
The
you.
name of the student, are you releasing that at this time?
Oh, the name of the student?
Yes.
No, we're not talking about that.
And,
right
and
now.
sir, can you speak a little bit to the procedure for when a school goes on lockdown? Some parents reached out to us saying they weren't notified that something was happening. The first they heard was from the news. Was there a notification that was sent to families at Austin East?
Oh, yeah, I think the notification, I did hear some feedback from parental feedback, community feedback from that, and we probably should have done a better job in terms of letting the community, families know that there was an emergency situation and that we were on lockdown. So the information was later in coming, and certainly take responsibility for that, and we'll try to make sure in the future. There was conflicting information, a lot of conflicting information at the time, and we wanted to try to be sure we put factual information out, but there would have been nothing to stop us from saying we've got an emergency situation here and that we're in lockdown.
Can you explain how the school got the tip? Was there a call from parents or that came into the school?
That I'm not aware of. I don't know, Chief Caduceus, he's not aware of either. So again, we're still waiting on a lot of the details, of the investigation. So there's a lot that we don't know right now, and I'm sure will be coming out as the law enforcement gets the facts substantiated and then ready to release that information.
Can you
Sure.
provide which,
I was going to say, students are off today and tomorrow at Austin East. They're back in class on Thursday after a fifth fellow classmate has died of gun violence this semester. How do those kids go back to school and learn on Thursday?
Well, I'm sure it's going to be difficult, and we're going to make sure, and we're still in conversation about what Thursday and Friday will look like, in conversation with the administration at Austin East, and just, please remember too, we're trying to process everything as well as our administrators at the school level, so we'll have more conversation about what Thursday and Friday will look like, but just to try to reassure families that we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that their student is safe at school. And, as Chief talked about, it's ironic to talk about the safety in school and then be talking about a tragic situation that we had in school yesterday. But we're committed to whatever the resources are and need to be. If we don't have those there now in place, then they're going to be there. And I'm not sure what that'll look like. We'll have those conversations, but we'll continue to keep our counselors engaged there at Austin East and be there for the students and staff.
can you provide which other schools went under lockdown yesterday?
I think some of the schools I don't have the school names, but in the vicinity of Austin East. Of course, schools that are in the vicinity, Vine and Cerebral Green, but I don't have, I'm not sure which schools were on lockdown, but I do know there were some in the vicinity of Austin East on lockdown.
Okay. And then Chief Caduceus said that he doesn't know how a student got a gun in the school in the first place. Without knowing how are you expected to actively make sure that this never happens again?
Well, hopefully we can find that information out through the investigation, and if there's something missing in terms of what we're doing, and we can put steps in place to prevent something like that from happening, then that will be our commitment. So I'm hoping that information will be revealed through the investigation that is ongoing.
I have a question for Chief Caduceus. What is the normal procedure when an SSO learns about a gun on campus? Do they alert the SRO, or is the procedure the same for both, or how does that work?
Okay, let me let Chief Caduceus address that.
Yes, ma'am. Obviously, it depends a little bit on the circumstances, whether the school is in session and there are kids in the school and we think the kid is on campus, or if it's a bus issue or some kind of transportation issue. There's a lot of different scenarios, but obviously anytime we get a report that a student has a gun on campus, we try to determine where that student is. We try to determine the credibility of the information. Our SSOs are going to immediately communicate with their SRO, immediately try to locate the child and try to render the situation safe. And that's if it occurs during a school day where we think the child may be on campus with a gun.
Who called the police on the student?
I do not know.
Okay. And then how many students were in the bathroom?
I do not know. And again, those are investigative issues that we'll be briefed on at the appropriate time, but I don't have the answers this afternoon.
I know you guys are working with the TBI as well. What does the TBI ask for in terms of information at this point from the school system?
I'm not sure that it's appropriate for me to share that information, other than that we are clearly working cooperatively with not only the TBI but the police department as well.
Why was the student taken away from school in handcuffs?
Again, I would tell you that's part of the investigation.
Okay. We know that the student who was killed had a gun. Do we know if it was his gun?
I do not, no ma'am.
Do you know if the school security officers responded with the SRO to the bathroom? Were they together responding? Were there other KPD officers who came to the campus?
I'm probably most comfortable leaving that as part of the investigation, and so I wouldn't feel comfortable answering today.
And there's just one other SRO, so two school security officers and the SRO from KPD who were at
It's my understanding there were additional KPD officers on the scene, but I know we had 2 SSOs on the scene.
Maybe one more question.
Chief Thomas, any parting words to this community where the school has heard so much and the school community has heard so much, as has the entire county? Folks out there earlier today talking about their frustration and their desire to see change happen. There's no easy answer. Where do you think people should start?
Well, a few weeks ago, Mayor Kincannon had a media briefing at one of the parks out in the community, and gun violence across our country. We've seen such an increase there, and the school system, we're going to do everything we can possibly do to put programs in place as early as we can possibly put them in place, and that I'm sure starts in the elementary school. But in my mind, it's much bigger and broader than the school system. And I know Mayor Kincannon is committed, and we've got to have partnerships with our community partners, and I don't know if a task force needs to be formed or just exactly what needs to happen. I'm eager to be in part of a conversation with maybe Mayor Kincannon, and the community agencies are going to have to get involved. Parents, we depend a lot on parents, and know we have working parents. They don't always maybe know exactly when their child goes off to school, but we've got to work as closely as we can with our parents. We've got to rely on information being provided to us when people become aware of a threatening situation. So I just think it's going to have to be an effort, a community-wide effort to try to address this. I wish I had, and I've thought about it a lot all day long, and I've thought about it actually since January. What can we do differently? What is it we need to be doing to try to do our part to somehow stop the violence, gun violence in our community? So I look forward to working with our agencies to try to come up with a plan to do that. And again, I say our board is committed to, resource-wise, whatever the resources need to be, we're committed to trying to make sure we do our part to put a stop to this. So, and just again, my heart goes out to the whole Austin East community. Like I say, it's something that no community should have to suffer. I can't even imagine. So, but again, just to assure people, I said this earlier. I'm tired of the talk. Whatever it takes to get an action plan so that we can start seeing some results. I think that's what's important. And if people can't get activated at this point after what all's happened in the community, then I really don't know what it would take to get folks to start thinking differently and thinking about what we can do to try to put an end to this.
Ma'am, I know this is difficult for you. Is there anything that
Thank you. Yes, it is difficult. This has been a rough semester, rough year altogether, but I just want to say to the question of our schools being safe, because that is something we championed after the last tragedy. But I also want to say to our students that your teachers will be there. I've talked to your teachers, I've talked to some of your teachers, and I've talked to your administration, and they'll be there. They'll be there waiting on you with their arms open wide. So know that they're there to love you, and put studies aside for the moment and take care of yourself and be there with your teachers. So thank you for all the support from the community. We have been stepping up. We have been stepping up since the beginning of all these tragedies, and that's what we'll continue to do. We'll continue to step up. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.